Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of Ask the King for March 2016. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I strongly recommend you do, because there's a lot of intro stuff, as well as a lot of great questions that got answered, alright? Before we begin with tons more questions, it's time for that patron super list, so special thanks to the following patrons who pledged $10 or more in the months of January and February of 2016. Kevin Stiles, Sammy Samosa, Ben Wynn, Sam Benson, Erwin Hames, Samuel Barnes, Vidar Viking Elvigan, Jelcy 1973, Matt Allen, Joseph Harrell, Tom Dooley, Connor, it was Connor Gildemeister, because it split the line for some reason, Mike Hunt 2018, Epic Loggy HD, Last Rambo 341, Logan Shannon, Francisco Resto, Aaron Carpenter, Jacob Hendricks, The Hidden Boss, Planet Jeff, Donovan, Louis, Jerica Chai, St. Jimmy, Christine Gebhardt, Michael Denealt, I probably completely botched that one, Thomas McDonald, Hank Duma, Faithin13, Papa Neeks, Cooper, QPZMWN, Malawan, The Epic Rob, Jesus with Lightsabers, I always love reading that one, Elysian, Adam Jones, Alan Hill, Jacob Curtis, Kazi, C. Shepard, Jenny Sarah, I think it's supposed to be Sarai or Siraj, but it actually corrupts this person's poor name when I export their name in the file, so I apologize for that, Janny. Jose Fernandez, Damian Tubino Geiger, I probably said that one wrong too. Sean Given, Sam Benson, Eric Hames, Jason, AV, Blaine Mayo, Emerald 7, Garrett Carlson. I think I already read Jose Fernandez. Yeah, I did. These are duplicates. Somehow they got duplicated the last three. Okay. If I forgot your name, I apologize. Let me know, and I will definitely give you your shout out in a future video. It's just kind of, I'm doing it a different way now. What I'm doing is trying to export the list from Patreon, and it works, but sometimes it glitched, like I said, with that person's name. It, like, corrupts the letter, and I can't read the final letter. So I apologize if anyone got left out. Let me know. I will very much read your name in a future video, okay? Back to the questions, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. All right, from MV, he asks, hey, Philip. Call me Philip. Oh, my mom calls me Philip. Since you love both Dead Space and Resident Evil, in your mindset, which game has the better plot, characters, action, horror, and if you had a choice between two enemies to fight in one of these games with just your wits and your bare hands, which would you pick? Well, I guess we got to take this one by one. Plot. Overall, the plot of Resident Evil versus the plot of Dead Space, I mean, Resident Evil kind of started off really interesting. It was almost like a mystery of what's going on. Why are there zombies in a mansion? And then it got insanely super duper convoluted with the G virus, the T virus, the X virus, the fucking XYZ real G virus, and Ouroboros up your ass, and tentacles, and fucking, now you're not even fighting zombies anymore. Now you're just going apeshit against fucking monstrosities. Dead Space kind of has retained the same plot line, although I have to say they did kind of go way off the rails in Dead Space 3, where the moons are aliens and, oh my god, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like both series, over the course of the series, have kind of gone overblown, in my opinion. So if you want to say what's the better plot, I think that's going to be a very subjective thing, and it also depends on which ones you're talking about. Like, I think the plot of Resident Evil kind of 1 and 2 was really good, compared to like some of the modern Resident Evils where it's gotten so crazy convoluted. And kind of the same thing, Dead Space 1, you're on an isolated spaceship, a derelict spaceship that's infected by all these monsters, you don't know what's going on. That's a great plot. Once you finally get the explanation in future episodes, you're like, I don't know. Characters, obviously we gotta go Resident Evil here. The characters of Dead Space, in some games the guy's a freaking silent protagonist, right? In others, you know, he gets a voice. And although there are recurring characters or whatever, it's definitely Resident Evil has the longer cast. It's been around a longer time, too, so obviously there's been a lot more time for character development. Action and horror. This, again, is going to be purely kind of based on opinion. I mean, a lot of people would argue that probably the original Resident Evil was the best horror game ever because it had that element of suspense, limited ammo. You always had a feeling of kind of, you don't know what's around the next corner and you may get screwed, and there were jump scares and cool stuff in it. But I have to say, in my opinion, I think Dead Space was a better horror-style game. It creeped me out when I played that first Dead Space. Remember, that was one of the first videos I ever put on YouTube in 2008, was to be playing Dead Space. And that game really did creep me out with a lot of the stuff in it. I thought it was a superbly done game. So in that regard, I actually think that horror-wise, Dead Space wins out. Now, action-wise, I mean, early Resident Evil games didn't have much action at all. Then later on, they kind of went complete action, versus Dead Space has always kind of been a hybrid game. I don't know if you could say that one game's better with the action than the other. In fact, by the time, if you really think of the controls of Resident Evil 6 versus Dead Space, they're almost the same, right? So it's kind of hard to say. Yeah, I don't really want to pick a winner there. Oh, and the final question, if I had to choose 2 enemies to fight in one of these choices, and I just fight them with my wits and bare hands, I don't want to fuck with any of that shit. Don't even make me think that any of that shit could be real. The last thing I want to do is have to go downstairs and get my fucking, my axe and have to start fighting fucking mutated creatures. I got enough shit going on in my life that I don't have to fucking chop limbs and heads off of things, okay? Alright, next question. Alright, this one is from Sassin, or it's either S-A-Sassin or Sassin. I don't know how to pronounce that. 77. Here's the question. Phil, over the years, I know you've been through a lot of adversity. Being DDoS'd, swatted, false copyright strikes, knowing that there's been negativity about you on the internet, etc. Seems like you really have some thick skin and that you overcome it. And you're still moving forward. I want to know how you overcome this negativity on a daily basis. Listen, I kind of already talked about this in part 1, so I'm certainly not going to reiterate the fact that because I feel that I have meaning and I make a difference in people's lives, that's why I keep doing it. But I'll be honest, yeah, daily, just daily. Emails, nasty tweets, videos being made about me, constantly negative. And the funny thing is, I really truly do believe that there's people out there that kind of feel completely the polar opposite, right? But the bottom line is, the human beings, the human condition, like in your head, you're conditioned to always do the negative, not the positive. So for every 1,000 people who hate me, there's probably 1,000 people who really like me, but it's going to be those 1,000 people who hate me that make the videos and send the nasty tweets and do the shit, right? And that's the thing. So it's hard when all I basically see is almost a purely negative face almost every day to keep going. I'll be honest. But, I mean, the bottom line is, I'm still here. You know, it would have been one thing if originally when I started getting this kind of negative wave back in, well, Jesus, what was the first year? 2011, 2012, I would say. Late 2011, early 2012 is when it all started. This almost backlash against me. That how dare Phil be popular on YouTube when all he does is raw gameplay throughs. You know, there's other YouTubers who do video editing and all that. They should be the ones that are popular, not him. And ever since then, that's kind of the negative, thing that I face. I'm not the guy. I'm not the one who does it right. I don't do it well enough. I don't deserve the popularity or the success that I've had, yada, yada, yada. And I've had it constantly. Boom, boom, boom. But I'm still here. In fact, if you actually think about it, at this point now, and this is kind of weird to think of it this way. 2008, I only made videos for a few months. 2009, very positive, everyone loved me on YouTube. 2010, very positive, everyone loved me on YouTube. 2011, when I started making a living, Phil's making money doing this? Well, that's it. You know, now we got to start writing him off, because that's not fair that he makes money playing video games, right? That's when the negativity started. So I'd say maybe even you want to say full year 2011 was positive. All right, 2012, 13, 14, 15, negative. A lot of negativity tossed towards me, right? I've had more years where the majority of YouTubers think that I'm an asshole than have actually liked what I do. But I'm still fucking here. So just think about that. I'm still here. Like, how could I not say that I've pushed forward and just persevered against all this shit? Like, think about that. I had a couple years where I was virally popular in a positive way. And since then, negative, I'm still fucking here, and I don't give a shit, and I'm not going to give up, right? So, you know, it's really just dedication. Maybe it's just I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm just so fucking stubborn, you know, that I refuse. I'm the kind of person that when someone says to me, you cannot do something, that I, like, have to fucking prove them wrong, you know? Like, and as long as it's within reason. You can't be an Olympic athlete. Yeah, I know I can't be a fucking Olympic athlete. I mean, I'm not stupid. But if you're going to tell me that I can't be successful, that I suck at games, that I can't do this or that or whatever, I'm going to prove you wrong, you know? And all those people, I'll be honest, I've said I'm the king of hate. I take this negativity towards me, and I use it to fuel me and motivate me to keep existing and do better and just keep going on. And I'm not always going to be the virally popular guy, and I'm not always going to be the most hated guy. There's going to be times where it's the middle and higher or lower, but I use that to fuel me, and I think that's really kind of how I've persevered, is even though all the negative shit happens, I still have people who come out and support me. Let me tell you something. This is really, like, real talk from the heart. I thought last year might have been my last year on YouTube. I'm 100% being real with you right now. Because I moved across the country. I saw a dip in viewership, and there was no, like, calculated event or anything that happened that was definitive. I saw a dip in viewership when I moved out of Connecticut. And I was like, I don't know if I could keep this going with, you know, the viewership that I have because of all these bills now that I have because I moved across the country. And then I opened Patreon. And I didn't know if it was going to work out. I didn't know if there was going to be an insanely huge backlash. And, of course, everything I do, there's a huge backlash. That's why, really, no matter what I do, I don't feel like, oh, no, should I or should I not do it? Because no matter what, people will spin it in a negative way. I'm used to it at this point. But when I opened that Patreon, I didn't know. I had no clue. Because I had left Twitch. Remember, that was the time. I just left Twitch TV. So that supplemental income I was getting from Twitch subscribers was completely gone. And I had a viewership dip. And I was like, am I going to be able to keep doing this? I don't know. And when I saw people month after month coming out, supporting me with Patreon, we were hitting the goals every month. People were enjoying the special events I was doing. Like, if anything, that shows me there is a core base of people that appreciate what I do and want me to keep going. And that fucking motivates me too. Because it seems like every roadblock I've had, right? Copyright strikes, DDoS attacks, fucking being swatted and doxxed, and being trying to shut down for the what was it, community guidelines for nudity when I was playing certain games and stuff like that. Trying to get me kicked off of websites like Blip TV and shit like that, right? And all these shit that we go through, viewership declines, and copyright strikes that hurt me financially, all this shit. I'm still here because of you, because you keep coming back and you keep supporting me in positive ways, and that's the bottom line here. You know, the question is, how do I have such thick skin? I have thick skin because I know that there's people out there who are rooting for me, who want to see me keep doing this and succeed, who care about what I have to say, who've been there from the beginning, and even people who've jumped in along the way. Don't think that I only think that the people who care about me are the people who've been here since 2008. Far from it. I think a lot of people have kind of learned about me over the years now from other things and come over and said, wow, this is really good stuff that Phil does, and we like him. He's different from other people who do this for a living, and, you know, that motivates me. That's what gives me the thick skin. I feel like I have armor on me of people who appreciate what I do, you know. And as long as people appreciate what I do, and they're gonna, when every hardship that I come up, people come in and somehow I persevere, that keeps me motivated to keep going. Like, I've been here 8 years. Unless some really crazy shit happens, like YouTube completely changes their format and you can't do gameplay anymore or something, I don't see how I'm gonna end doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I want to keep doing this in some form no matter what. So really, that's it. It's a combination of pushing forward and being positive and seeing that people appreciate what I do and coming out of the woodwork to help me, to let me keep doing what I love. So thank you for that. All right, next question. Hey, Phil, part of the process of becoming an adult is leaving the nest and living on your own. I realize that you've lived outside of your parents' home for a number of years, but do you miss them more now that you have moved across the country? I myself am living abroad for school, away from my family, and I find it hard sometimes as I miss them and I get homesick. How do you cope? Thanks, Ray. Excuse me. Well, real talk here. What do I really miss about Connecticut? There's a ton of things that I can tell you I don't miss because I wanted to get the fuck out of there for many different reasons. The things that I primarily miss about Connecticut. Number one, the food. The food's fucking great there. I mean, the Italian food out the ass, and I get none of it. Since I moved to the West Coast, I have not had one legit Italian meal yet, and it's very disappointing. Okay, the pizza and all that. Oh, God, some of the food. Oh, man, my mouth is watering now. Son of a bitch. Oh, actually, I'm having Italian pasta. We're having my sauce and pasta tonight for dinner, so that's okay. I'll get my craving will be satiated, so that's a good timing for this. But I digress. The other thing I miss about it, yes, the proximity to being to my parents, my family, etc. It's funny. You're absolutely right, because it's funny. When you live with your parents or your other family members, everyone takes each other for granted. Everyone ends up driving each other nuts, and you don't really give a shit. And then when you move out, all of a sudden, oh, you realize, man, you know, that family member who supports me, and we share time together, and we do things together, and, you know, now I miss that. And it is with my parents, you know. When I lived with my parents, very much so, we both took each other for granted, right? Got into arguments constantly and all that shit. When I moved out, and I was living at the condo in Connecticut for several years, all of a sudden there was more appreciation. Oh, well, Phil's not here anymore. Same thing. You know, my parents aren't here anymore on my end. And then we wanted to see each other, so we started going to dinner once a week. We would have, you know, see each other for holidays, etc., right? Now I don't have that anymore. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I miss them, and it's actually cool because it seems like things are coming together that they're gonna visit me or visit us here. Excuse me. Yet again, they're gonna come here in June. So they were here for Christmas 2014, and now they're gonna come here around June for like a summer visit, which would be nice. But I talk to them once a week. I call them and we have a conversation. Sometimes it's a short one because nothing's going on. Sometimes I just had an hour-long conversation with my dad this past week. About everything, about life, YouTube, everything going on with me, kind of catching them up on everything. So I stay in contact with my parents. We keep each other informed on everything. And in a lot of ways, I kind of have to as well because I still own the condo back in Connecticut. I can't get rid of it because it still doesn't have enough equity in it that I could sell it and not lose money. And plus, my aunt lives in the condo now, too. So... You know, I still have ties to them. Do I miss going to dinner with them? Yes. Do I miss seeing them more frequently? Absolutely. And I didn't see them. This past year, 2015, was a tough year because that was the first full year I didn't see my parents at all. The entire year, I did not see my parents once. Wasn't with them for any holiday, even though I'm typically with them for every holiday. So, yeah, it was a big change. But things change in life, you know what I mean? And as long as you keep yourself occupied with other stuff... you know, and really that's kind of the thing in life. Whenever something bothers you, got to keep yourself occupied with other positive stuff. You know, Leanna and I had a fun year last year together where we went to different things and we celebrated holidays in a lot of cases for the first time together, and it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, you're going to be homesick. Absolutely. And I get it from time to time. I feel, damn, you know, I wish I was at my parents for Christmas to spend the time with them and to eat the food and, again, you know, all that kind of traditional stuff. But it's part of life to grow up and things change, right? And, you know, you get used to it after time. And like I said, everyone's traditions and things change over time as well. So, just taking a look at how long I'm going. Okay, I'm almost 17 minutes. We definitely got a lot more time we can go in this part. Next question. Phil, in most of your movie-related videos and tweets, you complain a lot about the use of CGI, which you mentioned briefly in your Deadpool reactions video. So I want to know what you would say is the best use and balance of CGI in movies. Thanks, and keep up the good work. From I Am Curla 249. Alright, here's the deal. CGI has dramatically improved, but I still don't feel that CGI is at a level where we're going to get CGI in live-action movies that isn't just like, that's CGI, I see you. You know what I mean? Like, even movies that do really good CGI, 95% of the time, it sticks out like a sore thumb. And that's what bothers me about the CGI. You know, the Deadpool movie... Great movie, but every time Colossus is on screen, it's like you've got a fucking artificial thing on the screen, and I could fucking tell because he's fake. It's CGI. It wasn't even like amazing CGI either. You know what I mean? I'm okay with CGI in movies as long as you're using it sparingly and you're using it because you can't viably do something in the movie with conventional effects. You know what I mean? So, if you're doing an action scene that's so overblown, Lord of the Rings is a good example. Tons of shit that happens in the Lord of the Rings books could never viably be done in real life. I mean, how are you going to create a giant fucking dragon? How are you going to have some of the insane action scenes and stuff that you would expect in Lord of the Rings to actually take place in a movie with conventional effects? It's not going to happen. So, you use it sparingly when you need it, right? So yeah, some characters could be completely CGI, but when I watch the Lord of the Rings movies, I don't say, oh my god, this movie was fucking ruined by CGI, because a lot of the movie is conventional stuff. I like that. I like when you can seamlessly have it go in and out, and it's just like giant fucking spot on my TV that's fake. You know what I mean? CGI can be done well when utilized well. The problem is, these movie makers use it as a crutch. Well... It's not easy to do this conventionally, so we'll just use CGI. And it's pathetic. Like, I just saw, and we're going to talk about this in this episode of Ask the King, I saw the movie trailer for the Ghostbusters reboot. And I'm looking at the trailer, and I'm like, why do the ghosts in this movie look fucking worse than the ghosts from the original two Ghostbusters movies? And they do. I challenge you to watch that trailer. And then look at the original two Ghostbusters movies and look at the ghosts side by side and tell me that the original ghosts don't look better. Like, they look more realistic and more creepy. The new ghosts look like, you can tell it's fucking cartoony, fucking stupid, stylized CGI bullshit. Why? Why do we have to cop out to a fucking computer-generated thing all the fucking time? I hate it. I fucking hate it. Find a way to make it look better, you know? And it's just a cop. I feel that movie makers use it as a fucking crutch rather than finding a creative way to do something. And it's a shame because, you've got a whole entire arts that are now being phased out for crap. Puppetry, right? Jim Henson and his studio of the puppets and the things that used to be in a ton of different movies, it's almost extinct because CGI is easier. Yeah, because it's probably cheaper, and you probably got a million fucking people who want to do it because you sit on a fucking computer all day. But it's not, it reeks of lack of talent. It reeks, it does, it sticks out, it doesn't look good, and it's just, to me, it seems like a cop-out when you use it. So I'm okay with CGI when it really is needed, and as long as it's kind of used sparingly, and it makes sense. Not, oh, well, half the cast of the movie's fucking CGI, and you fucking over-the-top crazy amounts of crappy-looking CGI. That shit just bothers me, because am I watching an actual movie, or am I just watching a fucking computer graphics show? I have video games for that. I don't need to fucking watch a movie. Alright. Next question. Hey Phil, with Street Fighter V on the rise, could you explain what happened to your once dedicated channel to fighting games, DSP Street Fighter? Was it ever partnered through Machinima, and why did you eventually abandon it? That was from Wow Dude. Wow, some of you probably have no idea what he's even talking about, because that channel, which existed for about, I think it was around 2 years of actual, heavy use, ended up getting, not really abandoned, it still exists, didn't ever close down or whatever, but I basically was forced to stop using it. Here's the situation. Here's what happened. In 2010, I got false copyright strikes against my YouTube channel, DSP Gaming. Excuse me. Yeah, no. Now I'm confusing myself. Let me restart. That was completely incorrect. In 2010, I got false copyright strikes against my original YouTube channel, Darkside Phil. It actually shut the channel down for a bit. Excuse me. And so while the channel was shut down, I said, this is a perfect opportunity for rebranding. Let's do one YouTube channel for regular style Let's Plays and gameplay, and let's do a secondary channel because I love fighting games, but when I play fighting games, it always floods this channel with those videos, so let's make a channel just for it called DSP Street Fighter. And from late 2010, all the way through the end of 2012, okay, that's what happened. All my fighting game coverage was on DSP Street Fighter. And it was cool. I mean, did the videos get insane amounts of views compared to the videos on the DSP Gaming channel? No, they never actually had the same amount of views as DSP Gaming. But it was cool to have the destination channel. If you love fighting games and you love fighters, that was your destination. All right? Now, two things happened around the same period of time. One, I started to fall out of love of fighting games. I was getting tired and burnt out. At that point, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had come out. I didn't like it. I didn't want to keep playing it. I was burnt out on Street Fighter 4, especially with all the million updates they kept releasing. AE 2012 fucking super hyper bullshit edition that you have to relearn the whole fucking game again. And at that point, I was really burnt out. I really didn't feel like covering fighting games in depth. Not that I didn't want to cover them casually like I do now. Right now, I still cover fighting games. I'll do their story modes. I'll do challenge modes. I'll mess with different characters. I'll do online play. But you're not going to see me sitting here and playing this fighting game for 4 months straight and going to tournaments or whatever. That's the kind of coverage I was doing back then. And I was falling out of love with that. I didn't want to do it anymore. So already lingering in the back of my mind, I had the opinion that I probably was going to be doing way less fighting game footage. All right. At the same time that all that was happening in late 2012, I had my first contract renegotiation ever with Machinima. And when I had this contract renegotiation, what Machinima basically did is they took a look at ad revenue on my channels. And the renegotiation I had on DSP Gaming was very favorable. I didn't have, it was making less money, but it wasn't a significant, issue at all, okay? They looked at DSP Street Fighter and they said, well, per what we see this channel brings in revenue-wise, all right, for ads, because that's what Machinima makes their money on, the ad revenue on the channels. You're making nothing. And they basically showed me the breakdown, and I can't give you the full breakdown, because obviously it was 3 years ago anyway, I don't remember it. But basically what they were showing me was the channel was bringing in half as much ad revenue as what it was making. Excuse me, I screwed that up. The channel was making half as much ad revenue as the contract that I had for the channel. So basically they were paying me double, literally double, for the videos on there. They were losing money on DSP Street Fighter because, for whatever reason, ad revenue was low. Now, it doesn't even make sense because when you think about it, DSP Gaming was bringing in tons of ad revenue, but DSP Street Fighter wasn't. But I'm the same person covering games the same way. You know what I mean? Like, why was one... Was everyone who watches fighting game stuff using ad blocker? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. There's really no way to viably get an answer. That's what I have to think it, right? They're all using ad blocker when they're watching me play fighting games. So maybe the FGC, right, or people who are into fighting games hate ads. I don't know. But basically they were telling me, well, we cannot keep DSP Street Fighter under contract this way. It's impossible. Now, we're ending your contract, but we will re-sign you for this insanely low amount of money. Like, I'm talking like half of what I was making on DSP Gaming. And I said to them, just use logic here, all right? Why would I re-sign this channel for half the amount of money of what I'm making on DSP Gaming? Why wouldn't I just put the videos on DSP Gaming? And literally the guy who was involved in the contract negotiation was like, I can't think of a logical reason. I was like, then why would you even offer me the contract? Isn't that stupid? And basically he had nothing to say. So, I mean, it really was dumb. I have two channels. One, you're offering me this great contract. One, a shit contract. Gee, I wonder where I'm going to upload my videos. You know? So, at the time, the reasoning in my head was, I'm not going to be covering fighting games anywhere near as much as I used to because I wasn't in a competitive feeling for them anymore. And when I did, it would be sparingly. You know, how many fighting games essentially really come out in a year? 2 major ones. So, even if I end up doing the fighting game coverage on DSP Gaming, it's not going to completely destroy the channel, you know, with weeks and weeks of fucking footage of the same game. So I didn't think it would be that too much of a negative, and I eventually just said, all right, well, no, I'm not. We're going to do a new contract for DSP Street Fighter. So DSP Street Fighter still exists. It's still there right now. It's just completely severed. There's no partnership on it. So any videos that are there, there's no ads, or there shouldn't be any ads on them, and I'm not making any money on any of those videos. That's all legacy stuff. But let's be honest, who's going to go back and watch fighting game coverage, you know, a tournament that I went to or a game that I covered from 4, 5, 6 years ago? Fighting games are very pertinent to the time, so probably most people who want to see me play fighting games would watch me do the new stuff and watch me play Street Fighter 5 or whatever. They wouldn't care about me playing Street Fighter 4 3rd Update Edition or whatever the fuck it was years and years ago, you know? So ultimately, it does kind of suck, because it was good, it was, to have 2 channels, one dedicated to fighters and one for everything else, because it didn't, you know, the people who were subscribed over here didn't have their inbox flooded with fighting games, and vice versa. Those who only had interest in fighting games didn't have their inboxes flooded with other kinds of videos all the time. But during all these renegotiations, it just went completely sour. It made no sense for me to keep having that channel. And being that I don't cover fighting games anywhere as much as I used to, I don't really think that it's too much of an issue. You know, look when I covered Street Fighter 5. For 1 week, I told everyone I'm covering it. Unsubscribe if you need to. And now that it's over, you know, back to a normal schedule, it's not that big of a deal, right? Okay, there's your story. I think we have time for one more question, and then I'm going to take a break here. Next question. This one is from Final Light. And he says, hey, Phil, I heard that you mentioned Ju-on and the Ring movies in your videos in the past. I was stunned that you actually knew The Grudge by its original Japanese name. My question is, what is your favorite Japanese horror movie and why? Japanese horror. The reason I know all about it is because when The Ring came out, I found out, first of all, The Ring. Let's talk about The Ring, the Americanized version of The Ring. That's a very different kind of horror movie. You know, typically horror movies at that period of time, there weren't a lot of psychological thrillers. There weren't a lot of movies with, like, mysteries. It was more about slasher killer and shit like that. You have movies, you know, the Scream movies and, you know, those typical kinds of things. And then all of a sudden The Ring came out. Way different kind of movie. Really made you think about certain stuff going on and all kinds of shit, right? And I was like, this movie's so different. I want to know more about it. So I started researching. I found out it was based on Ringu, the Japanese movie, right? And I researched more and I found out, wow, there's a whole slew of Japanese horror movies. And I started researching them and watching them. Next thing you know, they all got Americanized versions all of a sudden. Literally every one of them had an Americanized version. You know, you had The Grudge and you had The Eye. And every one got converted for American audiences after The Ring successfully was converted. So, that being said, I kind of, on my own, watched the Japanese versions of these movies, and then later on watched the Americanized ones as they were released in the United States. And that's why I liked them so much. I know so much about them. What is my favorite one? I mean, you've got some really wacky ones. Audition is a really fucked up movie. To the point where the ending is still one of the things that turns a lot of people's stomachs so fucked up. And it's pretty crazy, a crazy kind of movie, way different from other kind of horror movies. I still have to say, the Ring series, Ringu, I don't know, Ju-on, I never really went crazy for it. I thought it was kind of cheesy, quite honestly. Even though it has some good visual effects and stuff, I was never, like, totally blown away by it. There's some really weird ones, too, ones that I don't even get. Like, there's that movie, I think it's called Pulse. I don't remember what it's called in Japanese, but I watched it, I was like, what is so scary about this? It doesn't even make sense. Just people, like, mass killing themselves or whatever. I don't know. But the bottom line is, could I put my finger on one definitive one? I'd probably say Ringu, because that's the one that got me into the whole Japanese horror kind of thing. And, I'm glad that I did look into it. If you've only seen the Americanized versions of these movies, I recommend you do watch the Japanese ones. It's interesting, because a lot of times it is the same plot, but they just take it out, it's uprooted from America and put into Japan, and to see the Japanese culture and the way that the Japanese live and all that stuff, a lot different than Americans, that's for sure. It's cool. You learn a lot about the culture just by watching the movie, so I strongly recommend that you did. All right, time for a break. I'll be back with part 3 of Ask the King. I still have, I'm not even kidding you, 2.5 entire pages of questions. So this may be a 4-parter. We'll have to see how long it goes. But anyway, I'll be back. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back shortly.